A loud, scary sound filled the underground fighting ring. It was a crack. Eli's knee had broken. He screamed in pain. People in the crowd gasped and started shouting. Bright, colorful lights flashed everywhere. The crowd got even louder. A fighter named Rex Maddox had done something very bad. He hit Eli when he wasn't supposed to. It wasn't fair. It was against the rules. In the crowd, a man named Jason Statham stood up. He was a huge fan of MMA fights. He loved watching fair fights where people use skill, not tricks. But now, his face was full of anger. His fists clenched tight. His eyes stared at Rex, who had a mean, proud smile on his face. Jason could feel the fire in his chest. He was ready to stand up for Eli. Eli lay on the floor, crying and holding his hurt knee. A shiny leg guard had fallen near him. The crowd shouted wildly. Some were angry. Some cheered. Some just wanted more action. But for Jason, it was personal. Would he stop Rex? Or would he get hurt too? No one knew yet. The answer was coming soon. This story was full of revenge, pain, and fighting. The crowd couldn't look away. Lights blinked. A scary feeling filled the air. Something big was about to happen. Before we go on, don't forget to like and subscribe to see Jason Statham's big battle against the cheating fighter. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. The Underground Fighting Arena. The Underground Fight Arena was hidden under an old, broken-down warehouse. The floor was dirty. The lights were bright neon colors. Pink, green, blue. They flashed and blinked. The air smelled like sweat and blood. People yelled and placed bets, throwing money around. Chains hung from the ceiling and clanked when people moved. The place felt wild, like something bad was about to happen. In the center was the cage, where the fighters fought. The cage felt alive, like it was watching and waiting for someone to get hurt. It was where dreams could come true, or be destroyed. Jason Statham sat in the crowd. He looked serious. He wasn't just a fan. He knew how to fight too. His body was strong, but he stayed quiet. He wore a plain jacket and kept his eyes on the ring. He didn't like cheaters. He believed in real fights, fair ones. But deep inside, Jason had a secret. He carried a big anger inside of him. It sat quietly, but it could explode at any moment if he saw someone cheat or hurt others for fun. He watched carefully. He noticed every move, every trick, every dollar waved by people making bets. He could tell something wasn't right. Meet Eli Dre. Inside the cage was Eli Dre, a new fighter. He was young and skinny, but full of hope. He stretched and looked at the crowd. He was nervous but excited. He dreamed of being a champion. Sweat dripped down his face. His hands shook a little as he fixed his gloves. But he kept going. He wasn't a superstar, just a kid who wanted a chance. Eli's hope was small, like a candle, but it still burned. Outside the cage stood Mick Callan, Eli's coach. He was an older man with a rough voice. He shouted things like, "Keep your guard up, kid." His face looked serious, but he cared deeply. He'd seen many fighters lose before, but he wanted Eli to win. Mick's voice was loud and steady. It helped Eli stay focused. His heavy boots hit the ground as he paced back and forth. He knew this place was dangerous. The fight begins. The crowd kept throwing money, shouting, and jumping. Bright lights flashed like a fast heartbeat. The air felt hot and heavy. Jason's anger grew stronger. His fingers dug into the edge of his seat. He could feel Eli's hope, and he didn't want it to be crushed. Jason watched everything. He saw Rex Maddox, the other fighter, smiling a sly smile in the shadows. It was a dangerous smile. The crowd was too loud to notice, but Jason saw it. He felt something bad was coming. The terrible moment. Then it happened. Crack. Everyone went silent. Rex had hit Eli's knee with his elbow, and he did it when they were supposed to be taking a break. That was illegal. It was cheating. Eli screamed in pain and fell. Blood spilled on the floor. The lights flashed. Eli held his leg, crying. His dream was broken, just like his knee. People shouted. Some screamed, "Finish him!" Others just stared, shocked. Rex grinned. He didn't care. He was proud. He had lost to Eli 3 times before. Now he wanted revenge. But he didn't play fair. Chains rattled. Neon lights blinked. The crowd made the whole place feel like a nightmare. Jason couldn't stay seated anymore. He jumped up. His fists were shaking. He shouted, "You're done, Maddox." His voice was loud and full of rage. Everyone looked. Jason's face was red. He remembered other unfair fights, dirty tricks, and broken dreams. He had seen it too many times. His heart pounded like a drum. He was ready to stop this. Rex didn't care. He laughed and said, "Sit down, fanboy." Some in the crowd laughed too. They waved their money. Others were still in shock. Mick Callan stood frozen. He didn't shout anymore. But he looked at Jason. His eyes showed respect. A hero steps up. Eli lay on the mat, bleeding and crying. His eyes, once full of hope, were now sad and lost. The fight was over. But something bigger was about to begin. Jason looked at Rex. He looked at the blood. He looked at the crowd. He felt the anger burn hotter. He felt the weight of all the fighters who had been hurt unfairly. This place wasn't just a ring. It was a trap. A graveyard for dreams. Jason couldn't let this go. He took a step forward. His boots scraped the ground. The crowd kept shouting. The lights kept blinking. But Jason's eyes stayed on Rex. He remembered every fight that had been unfair. He remembered every rookie who had been cheated. He remembered why he loved this sport. Eli's cry was still echoing in his ears. Mick gave a small nod. He didn't say anything, but his eyes said, "Go." What will happen next? The crowd didn't know it, but they were about to witness something big. Jason Statham wasn't just a fan anymore. He was ready to fight. He wasn't in the cage yet, but the cage was calling him. It wanted someone to fight for justice, for fairness, for Eli. The smell of blood filled the air. Sweat dripped. Lights flashed like lightning. And Jason stood tall, staring down the cheater. Rex laughed again. "You want some too," he said. Jason didn't answer. His fists were ready. His heart was burning. And the cage, cold, rusty, and cruel, was waiting. Was Jason going to stop Rex? Would the crowd cheer for fairness? Or would they let cheaters win again? Nobody knew. But one thing was clear. Jason Statham was ready. And the real fight was just about to begin. The fighters stood close, their hearts beating fast. It felt like a big storm was about to start. Jason Statham stopped moving. The crowd gasped loudly. Then everything got quiet, like a ripple of silence moved through the people. Rex stood inside the cage, showing off his muscles, not knowing what kind of trouble he had started. Statham was full of anger. His voice was cold and serious as he said, "I'll make you pay, Maddox." Each step he took toward the cage was strong, like the sound of a hammer hitting hard. The neon lights made a buzzing sound, almost like they were shouting. The air smelled like sweat and blood, a sign that a fight was coming. People in the crowd were screaming louder. Some were holding money, waving it like flags. Mick, the old coach, looked serious but had a small, grim smile. The whole arena shook with energy. Eli, Statham's friend, had been hurt badly. His painful cries were still fresh in Statham's mind. Statham remembered those cries like a voice calling him to fight. One punch in the cage had done more than break bones. It had started something big, a war, a fight for what was right. The cage, made of old metal chains, shook a little. Something big was coming. Rex laughed inside the cage and yelled, "Just a fanboy." His voice was full of teasing. Jason Statham walked into the arena, where the ground was stained with blood. The crowd booed and shouted mean words. People pushed around, holding up money and yelling, "He's nobody." The neon lights glowed bright and hot, making the dark warehouse look even scarier. The air was thick and hard to breathe. It smelled like blood and sweat. The cage rattled every time the crowd shouted. It felt alive, like a monster hungry for chaos. Statham's body was strong from training, but his face looked serious. His heart burned with anger. He still remembered how Rex hurt Eli. It made his blood feel like fire. People in the crowd laughed and made fun of him. "I'll make you pay," Statham had said before. Now he had to prove it. It was a test of bravery. Mick, the coach, put his hand on Statham's arm. His voice was rough but calm. "Watch his elbows, kid." Mick's old eyes looked carefully at Rex, remembering many fights. His worn-out boots scraped the floor as he paced back and forth. His advice was like a lifeline in the loud arena. Statham nodded. His heart beat fast, but fear crept in. He whispered to himself, "I'm no pro." He remembered a fight from long ago. He had lost. People had laughed at him. That shame mixed with his anger now. He wondered, was he just a fan trying to be a fighter? Mick looked at him kindly. "Rex cheated. A rookie I trained. He broke his spirit with a dirty trick." Mick's voice was low and serious. The story hurt him. Statham listened. It was just like what happened to Eli. It made him trust Mick even more. Mick squeezed his arm. It was like a promise. They were going to fight not just for the win, but to fix the wrong. The crowd kept betting, shouting louder. The neon lights flickered like they were about to go out. Statham still felt doubt, but he held Eli's broken shin guard in his hand. It reminded him of why he was here. The crowd pushed closer. "Maddox has got this," they shouted. It hurt Statham to hear that. Some fighters looked at Rex, proud and full of himself. Others looked sadly at Eli, who still held his hurt knee behind the stage. The cage smelled bad, like old blood and sweat. The neon lights seemed to laugh at Statham. His heart pounded hard. Rex had cheated, and now he was getting rich from unfair fights. Mick's voice stayed in Statham's head. "Keep moving. Strike low." But the cage was big and scary. The metal chains looked like they were daring him to step inside. Then something bad happened. One of Rex's big goons stuck out his leg and tripped Statham. His boot slammed into Statham's shin. Statham fell. The goons grinned like wild animals. The crowd cheered. "He's done." The neon lights flashed wildly. Everything felt unfair. Statham caught himself, but his leg hurt badly. He whispered, "I can't fail Eli." Mick shouted, "Get up." His voice was strong. His eyes are fierce. He believed in Statham. The cage wanted more than bravery. It wanted everything. Statham stood up. His fists clenched. The crowd's laughter faded. His doubt was still there, but something else was stronger, his will to fight. Mick's hand stayed on his shoulder. The shin guard in Statham's hand reminded him again. This was for Eli. Rex's evil grin in the cage lit a fire inside Statham. He was ready. The chaos in the arena got worse. People were betting, yelling. Goons watched him with hungry eyes. But Statham focused. His boots hit the floor with power. He stepped toward the cage. This wasn't just a fight. It was justice versus cheating. The air buzzed with that feeling. The crowd was wild, but Statham burned like a light in the dark. Mick whispered something serious. Rex meant to hurt Eli on purpose. The neon lights flashed. The air smelled worse. The truth cut deep. Rex had planned to break Eli's leg, not by mistake, but to get back at him for beating him 3 times before. That changed everything. This wasn't just revenge. It was about stopping a bully who liked to hurt people for fun. The warehouse felt darker. The chains shook. The cage looked like a place where Rex enjoyed crushing people's dreams. The crowd screamed louder, "Maddox is king!" They didn't know the truth. They didn't know this fight had started because of a dirty plan. The air got thicker. Something big was about to explode. Jason Statham stepped back, surprised. His breath came out in short puffs. "He targeted him," he whispered, shaking. His body felt weak, but his anger burned hotter than ever. He remembered all the unfair things fighters like Rex had done. The crowd laughed. No one had helped. His jaw clenched. The people yelling now waved money like flags. They didn't care about fairness. Rex had won many times with tricks. More rookies like Eli would get hurt if he wasn't stopped. The arena's G-Dre was everywhere. Mick came close again, his voice full of regret. "I failed a rookie once," he said, looking down. "Rex cheated, broke his arm, And I did nothing. Mick's eyes were full of shame. He walked back to the side, pacing like a ghost. Statham listened. The words hurt but helped. He knew he wasn't alone. The crowd roared again. The lights flickered. The smell of blood and betrayal hung in the air. Statham looked at the broken shin guard again. His fists clenched tighter. He remembered Eli falling. Mick's sad voice was like a promise to do better this time. The arena's energy grew stronger. People shouted louder. "Rex is unstoppable," some yelled. Statham's heart beat harder. Some fighters stared at Rex. Others looked at Eli, who was still hurting off stage. The cage floor was shiny with blood. The neon lights flashed fast. The crowd was wild, lost in their own G-Dre. Statham took a deep breath. He was calm now. The crowd's mean words were like background noise. He was no longer shocked. He was ready. Mick's truth was like a sword in his hand. The lights, the smell, the cage, everything pushed him forward. He stopped for a second. The crowd gasped. Rex flexed again, smirking. Statham's voice came out strong. "I'll break him." It was a promise, not just to fight, but to win for Eli. The crowd yelled louder than ever. The neon lights flashed like a giant heart. Mick nodded, his voice rough but proud. They were a team now. The cage stood tall, its chains shaking. A big fight was about to begin. Statham's feet stood firm. He was the light in this dark place. The crowd scream grew louder, like a heartbeat of justice. Rex's goons crept closer. The neon lights glowed red, hungry for blood. The arena shook. The floor is sticky with old blood. The fight was here. Jason Statham was ready. For Eli. For Mick. For every fighter hurt by Rex. The cage was waiting, and he was stepping in. As Jason Statham moved toward the cage, he remembered the promise he made earlier. "I'll stop him." That promise now felt like fire in his chest. But just then, Rex's big, strong helpers pushed him back. One of their fists touched Jason's jaw, and pain sparked like a firecracker. People were shouting and yelling. "Maddox has got him!" someone screamed. The noise was super loud. Bright neon lights flashed everywhere, and the smell of blood was strong inside the dark warehouse. The chains on the cage made loud creaks. The floor was slippery with blood, Eli's blood. The air was hot and full of sweat and anger. Jason's body was tired and covered in bruises. He almost slipped, but he stayed on his feet. The crowd was betting a lot of money. Everyone wanted Rex to win. The fight was set up unfairly. Rex was the favorite, and the people in charge had made sure he would win. If Rex hurt Jason like he hurt Eli, then even more new fighters would get hurt too. The arena was becoming a bad place, a place where dreams were broken. The neon lights above flickered and hissed like they were laughing at Jason. The G-Dre people in the crowd made Jason feel like he had a rope around his neck. Suddenly, Mick Callan, an old trainer, ran through the noisy crowd. His voice was rough but kind. "Kick his knees," he shouted. Mick gave Jason a piece of torn paper with a secret move written on it. His eyes were serious. He had trained fighters here for a long time. Now he was going against the people who ran the cage. He could get kicked out forever, but he didn't care. His hands shook as he gave the note to Jason. "Make him pay for Eli," Mick said. His voice cracked, full of feeling. He and Jason had both seen the horrible things Rex did. They both cared about Eli, a young fighter who had been hurt badly by Rex. The crowd kept yelling. The neon lights blinked like a heart slowing down. Blood and fear filled the air. Jason held the note tightly. His heart beat fast. Mick's help gave him a little more strength. He remembered Eli falling in the ring, his leg broken. It made Jason angry. But things were still hard. Another of Rex's helpers punched Jason's arm. It hurt so bad. People in the crowd laughed. "He's finished," someone shouted. Jason felt weak. His spirit felt crushed. Some people in the crowd looked at Rex, smiling. Others looked sad when they thought about Eli's pain. You could almost hear Eli's scream in the air, like a ghost. The cage stood there, old and rusty. People kept betting against Jason. They didn't believe in him. Rex's helpers surrounded him. Their smiles were mean and scary. Jason's breathing got heavier. His arm hurt so much. He leaned against the cage. He felt like giving up. "I can't win," he whispered. He remembered other times he had lost fights. He remembered people laughing at him. He had been angry ever since he came to this place. But that anger wasn't helping anymore. The neon lights flickered again. The smell of blood was strong. The G-Dre shouting of the crowd felt like a big wave crashing over him. The whole arena was full of lies. The people in charge had made sure Rex would win. That's how they liked it. Dirty and unfair. The floor inside the cage shone with blood. Everyone watched closely, waiting for what would happen next. Jason felt even more tired. He looked like a man who had given up. Rex saw him and smirked from inside the cage. That meant a smile was like a knife. Rex wanted to hurt more people. Jason could see that now. He could feel it. People in the crowd cheered for Rex, calling him the king. Some fighters nodded to Rex. Others looked at Mick, who suddenly shouted again. "Fight! Do it now!" Mick's voice was strong and loud. Jason looked at the note again. It said, "Low kicks. Strike fast." It was simple but powerful advice. Mick had put everything on the line to help him. That made Jason feel a spark in his chest. He pushed himself away from the cage. His arm still hurt, but the crowd's mean words were now just noise. His eyes locked onto Rex. He remembered Eli's broken leg again. That memory was now a fire inside him. Mick believed in him. Jason's anger was now a tool, not a weight. The lights, the pain, the cage's groan, it all sounded like drums. Drums of battle. The people betting, the goons sneering, the whole unfair system. It was no longer something that scared him. It was something he was ready to face. Jason stood up straight. His fists tightened. He had a plan now. His voice came out as a growl. "He'll feel Eli's pain," he promised. He was going to hurt Rex's knees, the same way Rex had hurt Eli's. The cage, which once seemed hungry for Jason's defeat, now wanted Rex's. The crowd gasped. The lights blinked wildly. Mick gave a nod, proud and excited. The air felt like it was shaking with the weight of what was coming. Jason's stand was strong and brave. The old, rusty cage felt like it was shaking too. The crowd roared. The goons looked angry. The whole arena was full of energy. Jason's plan was clear now. Fight with fire and end Rex's cruelty. Jason ran into the cage. The whole place shook from the noise. Rex stood there, smiling in a mean way, thinking he had already won. The bright lights flashed. Jason's boots landed on the bloody floor. His body was ready like a spring, tight and full of power. His promise burned in his heart. Rex will feel what Eli felt. Rex showed off, micting his knees. He thought no one could beat him. The air smelled bad with sweat and blood. The cage's chains clanked like they were ready for a big fight. "Maddox can't be beat," someone yelled. The noise was huge. But Jason's eyes were sharp. His heart beat with the sound of justice. The bets and the lies that gave Rex his power didn't matter anymore. Jason was ready. The fight started with a loud smack. Jason used his Muay Thai moves, kicking low. His roundhouse kick hit Rex's left knee. There was a loud crack, like a tree breaking. Rex's smile turned into a scream. He tried to hit back with his elbow, but it only scratched Jason's cheek. Blood sprayed out. Jason ducked and did a spinning kick, right into Rex's other knee. Crack. Another loud snap filled the air. Rex screamed again. His legs couldn't hold him anymore. He fell to the ground, crying. The bright lights shone down on his defeat. People in the crowd dropped their money in shock. They had all bet on Rex, and now he had lost. "He's down," someone shouted. Some people were quiet with mouths open. The air pulsed with fear and sweat. The chains on the cage rattled. The smell of blood got stronger. Jason stood tall. Rex looked up at him, crying in pain. His scream sounded weak, nothing like Eli's strong, hopeful voice. The crowd stopped cheering. The lights blinked slowly, like a star about to go out. Jason's heart beat fast. His anger, held inside for so long, boiled up. He wanted to punch Rex's face. He really did. But then he remembered Eli's eyes, so full of dreams. He stopped. His fist shook in the air. He thought, not for rage. For Eli. He pulled his fist back. He chose justice, not revenge. The crowd gasped. The lights dimmed. Everyone felt something change. Jason had grown. He wasn't just angry anymore. He had become something better, stronger, kinder, wiser, like a sword made from pain and trust. Mick ran up to him. "You did it, kid," he shouted. His eyes were shining with pride. He patted Jason's back. The crowd started to cheer, for Jason. The people who had bet on Rex were now running away, stuffing money into their pockets. Fighters all around started cheering. Some said Eli's name. His pain had become a fire that lit the whole arena. The bright neon lights blinked one more time and then softened. The floor, once covered in blood, now held the truth. Rex was defeated. Rex fainted. His body didn't move. His screams were gone. The crowd's cheers were loud like the sea. They washed away Rex's mean smile and the lies of the arena. The secret cheating and unfair fights had been seen. The truth was now clear. People who ran the arena looked angry, hiding in the shadows. Their unfair game was falling apart. Fighters threw away their betting slips. They promised to have fair fights from now on. They nodded to Jason. The cage wasn't a place of pain anymore. It was now a place of hope. The air felt cleaner. The lights didn't hiss anymore. The dark feeling inside the warehouse was gone. People started to say Eli's name. They talked about Jason's brave fight. His promise to stop the cheating, to stop the hurting. It gave them hope. The cage had been a pit. Now it was a new beginning. Statham stood still. His chest was going up and down fast. He was breathing hard. A little blood ran down his cheek. One of his shin guards was broken. It was a painful sight. It reminded him of Eli's pain and his own fight. The crowd used to cheer with G. Dre, only caring about money. But now, their loud voices sounded like a song of hope. Statham felt proud. He had fought hard. He had fought not just for himself, but for Eli too. In his mind, everything moved fast. He remembered all the unfair things that happened. The rookies who were cheated. The punches that hurt more than they should. The fights that weren't fair. But today was different. Today, all of that pain led to this moment. The cage, made of chains, used to scare people. It used to laugh at the weak. But now it hung quiet. The neon lights glowed softly. It felt like the cage had changed. It wasn't scary anymore. It felt like it was saying, "Things can be better." Statham looked at Mick. Mick gave him a nod. It was a quiet promise. They both knew what they had been through. Eli's pain and Rex's betrayal had brought them here. That fire they felt inside was now a bond between them. The other fighters walked onto the mat. Their eyes were full of hope. The old warehouse, dark and cold, felt like it was waking up. Statham's mind showed him the whole fight again. Rex's elbow, Eli's loud cry, the G. Dre crowd, Mick's secret note. All those things made this moment happen. He had fought mean guys. He had fought his own fear. He had heard Rex laugh at him. He had carried anger for a long time. Since that day, the crowd has laughed at him. But the cage didn't just test fists. It tested hearts. It taught him to fight not because he was mad, but because he wanted to do what was right. The crowd began to chant, "Justice! Justice!" They shouted. The fighters raised their hands. Some shouted Eli's name. People who used to bet money left their coins behind. The bad bosses were losing power. The crowd had changed. Statham's brave stand had changed the cage. It wasn't a place of fear anymore. It was now a place of honor. A place to protect rookies like Eli, who had come in with big dreams. The lights weren't too bright now. The air felt calm. The mats didn't look like a place for pain anymore. They looked like a stage for heroes. Statham took a deep breath. The crowd's cheers were like a strong heart. Mick shouted with joy. His rough voice was full of pride. The warehouse didn't feel dark anymore. The blood smell was almost gone. The chains didn't shake. Statham had won. But his win wasn't just about beating Rex. His win meant something bigger. It was a promise. A promise to stop G. Dre. A promise to make things right. Fighters came close to the mat. Some kneeled down. They thought of Eli. They remembered his pain. The arena that once felt like a monster now felt warm. The crowd cheered together. Fighters held hands. Some cried for Eli. Others shouted for fairness. The neon lights glowed soft and steady. The air carried hope. Before, it had carried only G. Dre. Statham's stand changed the cage forever. It was like fire had cleaned away the dirt and lies. The bad people's voices were gone. Their money meant nothing now. Fighters promised to train fair. They promised to fight clean. They wanted to follow Eli's dream. The cage was now a safe place. A home for honest fighters. Statham's heart beat strongly. He still remembered the cracked shin guard. It meant everything. It reminded him why he fought. Not for a prize. Not for praise. But for what was right. He looked at the crowd. Their faces were full of wonder and strength. The arena didn't tease him anymore. It was calling him now. Mick's voice shouted with pride. "You showed him." That made Statham smile. Their friendship, built in battle, meant so much. The warehouse wasn't dark now. The lights hummed like a quiet promise. The mats in the cage sparkled. Statham's fight had been for more than just Eli. It had been for every rookie. For every kid who was hurt by people like Rex. The crowd's chant grew quieter. A fighter raised his fist. Another bowed his head. The air was full of hope. Statham stood tall. The battle was over. But the change had just begun. He whispered, "Eli's pain showed us the truth wins." He thought of Eli, the rookie who wanted to be a star, whose leg had been crushed, whose dream had almost been lost. The cracked shin guard was more than metal. It was their story. The crowd went silent. Fighters cried. They held hands. The lights above glowed like stars. Mick's voice joined softly, "For Eli." His voice was full of love. He was proud. The cage, once full of anger, now felt peaceful. The smell of blood was gone. The cage wasn't scary. It felt safe now. Statham's brave choice had changed everything. The arena had a new heart. A heart that beat for truth. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about protecting others. About making sure no rookie was ever hurt like Eli again. Mick helped Eli train again. Off to the side, he guided him. "Slow steps, kid. You'll fight again." His hands helped Eli stand. His eyes were full of pride. They were family now. Their bond was made in fire and love. The crowd who once cheered for Rex's dirty tricks now burned their betting papers. The fire under the lights flickered with promise. Fighters joined hands. They said they would always fight fair now. The air buzzed with feelings. Some fighters cried. Others smiled. The cage was now a place to dream. Statham watched quietly. His heart is full. The cage didn't hurt people anymore. It lifted them up. The shin guard in his hand was heavy. It reminded him of Eli's fall. But it was also a promise. A promise to protect every kid with a dream. Fighters nearby looked at him with happy eyes. They respected him. They trained hard but fair. Their punches were clean. Laughter filled the room. It wasn't about fear anymore. The crowd wasn't noisy with G. Dre. It was quiet with care. The old bosses were gone. They had no power now. Statham had burned away their lies. The cage was clean. The lights glowed warmly. The chains didn't rattle. They stayed still. Statham looked at his reflection. His voice was soft but strong. The shin guard was like magic. It told the whole story. Mick gave commands. Eli walked slowly. Fighters trained. It all felt like a new beginning. The arena was fresh. The crowd was ready for more. Some fighters got on their knees. They honored Eli's pain. Others trained with new energy. The mats were clean. The air was full of dreams. The cage wasn't a monster. It was a helper now. Statham stepped into the cage again. He sparred with Eli. Gently, kindly. The cage will help fix your dream, he said with a smile. Eli's crutches stood by the mat. He didn't need them right now. His eyes were shining. The crowd watched. Some clapped. Some stayed quiet. But they were all united. Mick cheered. Keep going. He was proud. The lights above them glowed with hope. The dark corners of the warehouse were gone. It was a good place now. Statham had done something great. He had made the cage better. It was no longer a trap. It was a home. He and Eli sparred slowly. Their faces were wet with sweat. But their hearts were full of hope. The old broken shin guard sat on a box. It still shined. It still mattered. The air didn't smell bad anymore. It smelled like hard work. Like dreams coming true. The cage had changed. The fighters around trained honestly. Their gloves hit with truth. Their laughter filled the room. The crowd had become a family. They didn't cheer for G. Dre anymore. They cheered for justice. Statham's stand had made this happen. He stopped for a moment, then said quietly, I'll protect Eli's dream. His voice was low and full of love. He meant it. He would never forget Eli's broken leg. It had started everything. The light hummed above. The shin guard shined. It wasn't just gear. It was a promise. Statham knew now. Truth beats anger. Always. He stood tall. He thought about everything. Mick's trust. Rex's lies. The cage's test. It had made him a new man. Not someone who fights for revenge, but someone who fights for what's right. He looked at Eli. Eli was training hard. Slowly, but with heart. The crowd watched with love. The warehouse wasn't cold anymore. The lights didn't blink with lies. They glowed with truth. Fighters trained. Their gloves moved with purpose. They respected Statham. They saw what he had done. The bad people were gone. Their money couldn't hurt anyone now. Statham had cleaned the cage. He had made it safe. The lights glowed. The chains didn't shake. His soft voice stayed strong. The shin guard was his vow. Mick shouted. Eli trained. The other fighters worked hard. The cage was a new place. A place where dreams could grow. Where pain turned into strength. Where fighters helped each other. The cage used to break hearts. Now it fixed them. Some fighters knelt for Eli. Others smiled. Some sparred with joy. The mats shined. The air danced. The cage had a new job. Statham stepped into the ring with Eli again. His voice warm, he said, We'll make your dream real again. Eli's eyes sparkled. His hope was back. The crowd watched. Some clapped. Some cried. They all believed. They all promised to fight fair. Mick's proud voice shouted again. The lights hummed. The shadows were gone. The cage was a safe place. A place where truth lived. A place where no rookie would be crushed again. Statham's brave moment had changed everything. The fight wasn't just about beating Rex. It was about building a better world. One punch at a time. The lights glowed gently. The fighters trained with joy. The crowd stood in peace. The cage's heart beat strongly. For Eli. For truth. For every fighter's dream. If you enjoyed this story, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next thrilling adventure or mysterious twist. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.